so excited to welcome our very first podcast guest, and Miss Brigham. She's a psychotherapist, certified coach, and author. She has around 20 years of experience and helped thousands of people to find their unique paths. So, Miss Brigham, you used to be a top Hollywood junior talent manager and decided to quit for your mental health. What gave you the courage to take this risk and rebuild a completely different life and career for yourself?
Yeah, and you can call me Tess. So, yeah, I mean, it was messy for sure. It was not like a clean, simple thing. But, yeah, I mean, I had this big dream of working in Hollywood, and I, did everything I was supposed to do to make it happen. But, once I got to LA and sort of settled in and started working in the industry, I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, I hate this. Like, I don't enjoy this at all. I don't think this is right for me. And, I want to say there was courage in all of it, but a lot of it was just kind of like, as I was going along, just deciding, okay, I know I don't want to be in LA. I got to leave LA. I know I don't want to work in entertainment anymore, so I need to leave I need to leave entertainment. I think a lot of times when people get to these points in their lives, and I definitely feel like I had I was about 27, and I do feel like I had a quarter life crisis. You want to change everything, right? You want to that's it. I'm going to move across the country, or I'm going to sell everything and, move to another, to outside of the country, or whatever it is you decide to do. So, but the thing is that, change and changing in that way, what you really have to do is you have to take it one step at a time. So in a way, I know I'm not really answering your question, because I don't know if I really thought of myself as being brave or courageous in the moment. I just kind of kept going oh, okay, I got to change this. This isn't working. Oh, I got to change this. And it's only been looking back now that I can see, oh, wow, yeah, that was a big deal. That was a lot to give up, and that did take me longer than I thought it would. So I think, I think a lot of times people think that you're born with confidence, or you're born being courageous or brave, and it's no, those are muscles and skills that you build. And so part of, being courageous and deciding to make changes, deciding to address mental health issues, a lot of it is you don't need to know exactly what you want or exactly how it's all going to look. You need to just start moving forward, start taking steps.
Once you graduated college, everyone is like, "Oh yeah, you need a job." So then you already had a job, which is why it's hard to completely change into a different career once you've already graduated college and once you've already got a good job.
Yeah.
So for someone who's very shy, and that they're just very scared of the future, how can you encourage them to change their life into something that will make them happier?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. A lot of it is, and this is the part about being young that's hard, is that, when you're young, you're really trying to figure all these things out. And this is why there's so much change. This is why it feels so frenetic all the time. It's not because there's something inherently wrong with you, or that you're failing in some way, shape, or form. It's just that you're young and you're trying to understand yourself. And the only way to really understand yourself is by doing the things, right? So you're not going to know if a career is right for you or not until you sort of get in there and start doing it. And that's what happened to me, was that I had created this belief or this fantasy of what this job was going to be. And when you're, in high school or in college, your future can be whatever you want it to be. If you haven't stepped into reality yet, so you can make it. So you, of course, in your fantasies, love it and think it's great and you're so good at it. But once we start working and we get into it, we sort of see like, oh, this is what work is like. This is what it's like to build a career. And it's in those moments where you really have to stop and not see it so much of, okay, I've got to figure out what my career is. I've got to figure out what my career is. You really want to see it as exploration of, okay, this is where I am. I thought I wanted to do this, or I'm enjoying this. I thought I wanted to do this kind of job, but I don't think I do. These are the aspects of the job I enjoy. These are the aspects of the job I don't enjoy. Okay, let me figure out, let's concentrate on the things that I do enjoy. What would that look like? Like if and that's what careers are. Each job is to get you, hopefully, closer and closer to that sort of sweet spot, that ideal sweet spot that we all want to be in with work, which is, career sweet spot is like this combination of finding something that you're really good at combined with something that you enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. But finding that perfect balance, that takes time. And what I see a lot of it getting in young people's way is they get very focused on wanting to know the destination. Like, I need to know where I'm going to end up. And it's like, I don't know. And you don't need to know either. So that's the first one. And the other part of it too is you cannot stay in indecision. You can't just stay stuck, hating your job and not doing anything about it. Like, you have to take action. You have to do something. Doesn't mean that it's about leaving the job, but you can't just stay in this one place and go in circles. You have to start, making some changes.
So for you, did you have like prior knowledge in psychotherapy, or were you like interested in psychology?
No, it was funny because I left LA at 27. I came back here because I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I live. Grew up in Berkeley. And so when I came back here, I had been thinking like something about therapy or psychotherapy, like it was sort of in the back of my mind. But the question that I asked myself was, when I got back, when I got out of LA and kind of had a moment, I asked myself, like, what was it about the jobs that I've had already that I liked? Like, what did I like? And what was I good at? What was the piece of the thing? And I kept coming back to, I worked with actors. And so I really enjoyed speaking to actors, helping them with their problems, getting to know them, understanding their personalities, understanding who they are. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. And I was like, could it be therapy, or could it be this? But I had never even taken a psychology course. I think the last psychology course I had taken was in high school. I took no psychology at all in college. So I ended up taking this accelerated 3-week intro to psychology course, like at a community college. And, I paid $30 or something like that to take the class. And I loved it, and I really enjoyed it, and that helped me. And that's something else that I encourage my clients to do, which is, okay, you have this inkling of something, well, go investigate it, go seek it out, right? Go spend a little bit of money to take the class. Like, worst case scenario is the second, third day of the class, you hate it and you never go back. Okay, what did you lose? Not that much. You want to pick things that are sort of what I call the low-hanging fruit, like things that are easy to figure out, easy to do, and taking classes or talking to people that are in the industry that you're interested in, or networking, or all of that. Those are all sort of relatively inexpensive ways of gaining knowledge about a particular industry. But really, truly, you're not gonna, you can make educated guesses, but you're not gonna know what exactly is perfect for you until you get into it. And that's one of the parts that's hard about all this is, you might get into a job you don't like, and, it might not be great, but you'll figure it, it's not the end of the world. You can leave. And that's one of the parts that's hard about all this is, you might get into a job you don't like, and, it might not be great, but you'll figure it, it's not the end of the world. You can leave.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now that you're an adult, what are some habits that you've created over your life to discipline yourself daily?
That's a good question, because I try to stay away from like discipline and self-discipline, because it always seems very harsh to me, like very, right? It doesn't really take into account that we are people. and that we have our ups and downs. But I think for me, what I really try to do is, and part of this is part of my job. It requires me to be very aware, so I try to be very aware of how I'm responding to people. Like if I'm short, or if I'm feeling something, or if I'm feeling frustrated or off in some way, shape, or form, I stop and ask myself first, like, what's going on with me? Why am I reacting this way? What's happening? And what do I need to do differently to show up differently, to be, to react to this person differently? And that's been, it's really helpful because, the biggest lesson that I've learned through my life is that we don't have as much control as we think we do. And the one thing that we have complete control over is what we think and how we choose to see ourselves in the world around us, and how we, view things. And so that's what, in these moments where things aren't working or things don't feel quite right, it's the more you can focus on yourself. What do I need to change? What do I need to think about? What do I need to do differently? Yeah, sometimes it is. Yeah, many times it's about other people too. They need to do things differently, but you can't control them. You can only control yourself. So being able to sort of stop and figure out, okay, what's my part in all of this? Like, what's my piece of this, And even if you're having an issue, I'm married, so I'm having an issue with my husband, I need to stop and say, okay, what's my piece of all of this? It's not just one person. And for me, just being in the habit of being aware of what my thoughts are, being aware of like what's making me feel the way I'm feeling, then I can address it. And I can also, it helps as well for me to make, I don't end up making emotional decisions or decisions out of anger or frustration or fear. I'm able to make decisions from a place that aligns with what I want, because I'm more in tune with how I'm feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
These things are, there's never an end point to them. I think that's another sort of myth, is people think like there's this, you reach a certain point in your life and you're like, okay, well, that's it. I did, I figured it all out, or I did it all, or, and that's not why, I don't think that's why we're here. I think we're here to, grow and push ourselves. So part of it too is, once you've kind of mastered something, to keep pushing yourself to like, okay, what else can I do? How else can I grow as a person?
Would you say you're an optimist or a pessimist?
I would say I'm definitely an optimist, which is, and it's funny because my sister and I actually, we have a podcast. We talk about popular culture. And so I'm a therapist and she's an attorney. And it's been very funny doing the podcast with her, because I tend, I'm much more of, just part of it is my job, but like I'm much more of an optimist. I see the positive people. We watch these shows and I'm always kind of like, well, they're a good person underneath. Like they wouldn't really want to do that. And my sister, who's been trained to, as an attorney, like look for the holes, look for the, look for the inconsistencies, look for these things. So she really comes at everything from this very pessimistic view. And I think that people think that one is better than the other, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It really isn't. It's just kind of how you see things. I will tell you, there are things in my life where being an optimist did not help me at all. Like I had a medical issue 3 years ago, and I was so much of an optimist. I'm like, I'm fine. Like, it couldn't be wrong. And then I finally went to the doctor and realized oh no, this is bad. Like, this is far more advanced than I thought it was. And I look back on that, and yes, getting through the illness itself and the treatment, I had cancer. So that's not to bury it, but I had breast cancer, and I was diagnosed in 2021, sorry. And so the optimist in me kept thinking couldn't be that. And so that's why I pushed it off. And then by the time I got to the doctor, I ended up having to have a lot more treatments. It's I don't know. We don't know for sure if it would have looked different if I had shown up earlier. But that was that optimist in me, assuming that it wouldn't be. And My husband, who's like much more of a hypochondriac and freaks out about everything, like he would have been to the doctor like the minute he thought something was wrong. I first started noticing things in 2020 during the pandemic. So that was the other thing too, was like I was sort of staying away because they told me to stay away. But I know, like, if the roles were reversed and that was my husband, he would have like insisted on going to the doctor right then and there. And that's because he would have assumed it was something awful, and it was. See, good thing I went, right? But for me, it wasn't good. But during the cancer and getting through the treatments, being an optimist helped tremendously. Having a positive attitude and being able to, for me, you kind of just have to take something like that step by step. Like, what's the next thing I need to do? Okay, after this, what's the next thing I need to do until you get to the end. And that helped. But I probably would have, it would have been better for me to go in, 6 months earlier.
Yeah, I would say I have a good mix of both.
Yes. And so, right, some of our best qualities are also our worst qualities, are the things that kind of get us in trouble. And so if you tend to be someone who, right, is more of an optimist, I will say, and I try to push myself to do this too, of, okay, look at the other side, be a little cynical about this and look at it that way. And I think it's the same for people that are, much more cynical and pessimistic. It's like, okay, tell me what good will come from this. And that's like anything else in life, whatever it is that you're lacking, that's the thing that you have to keep pushing yourself to do and do differently.
Yeah, it's nice to be open-minded.
Yes, for sure.
So as a student currently, what are your tips for teenagers to maintain mental health when we're always stressed?
Yeah. I think the biggest one is, and I know this is hard, but there's such a desire to want to know what the future holds, right? Like what I see a lot with my young clients is they have a lot of anxiety, and a lot of it is centered around like, what's next? What's going to happen? What's going to happen if I don't get into this college? How's the world going to view me? What's my life going to be like? And all of those things. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is, yes, you want to go for the things that you want to go for. You want to work towards the things that you want to work towards, for sure. But there's never going to be one thing or one aspect of your life that is going to make you or break you, in a sense. Like, you've got to trust, you've got to really trust that you are, right, showing up and doing the things that you need to do, working as hard as you can, and whatever happens. And you have to trust that those things are happening for a reason. And, I'll teach this exercise to clients a lot about saying, letting go of the outcome. Because the thing is that we don't have as much control as we think we do. A lot of times we get so fixated on the things in our life, and we get very fixated on what the outcome's going to be. So for example, like doing this interview, I could sit here, what's within my control and what's out of my control? What's within my control is, okay, showing up and, getting enough sleep and making sure I'm here on time and being, having a good attitude, being positive, like using, just, all the years of experience that I have, I bring that with me, right? But how you receive me, how the audience receives me, what you think of what I say, I have zero control over any of that. Like how anybody feels about me, I can't control any of that. And that is the outcome, right? The outcome of this will be the produced podcast. So what you want to do is, when you're approaching the things in your life, you want to approach it from a place of, okay, let me let go of the outcome. Let me let go of what of trying to control what I think this experience is going to be like. Focus on myself, focus on what I'm doing, what I'm bringing to it, and then trusting that whatever happens. So, for example, I don't know, does anyone take the SATs anymore? I think some people do, right?
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, still. Okay. So or the ACT or whatever. That's a good example of something where it's like, listen, all you can do is you can study, you can take the classes. I had to take one of those courses, and it helped me tremendously because I did not know how to take tests. But you can take one of those courses, you can study, you can put in the time, you get up, you get a good night's rest, eat a good breakfast, and show up to the test and be there. But after that, what your score is, that's the thing that you've got to let go. It's the same thing with applying to schools. You've got to apply and do that part, and then be like, okay, whatever school I end up in is the school that I end up in, and not getting too attached to, oh, I need to go to this school because this is what this means, or you know what I mean? It's really trying to sort of focus back to what's within your control and trusting that whatever, however this is going to happen is the right way it's going to happen. When we try to control things too much, that's where this, our anxiety kicks in, and suddenly you're trying to control so many things that you can't, by any means. I mean, practically, like day-to-day piece of it, if you're struggling with anxiety, hands down the best thing that you can do for yourself is meditation or mindfulness. And I'm sure people get so sick of hearing that, but it's what both mindfulness and meditation do is it's attention training. You're learning how to train your attention to what's happening in the present moment. Because what they found is that, right, anxiety is about the future, depression's about the past, and we tend to live in the future or in the past. We're either the woulda, coulda, shoulda of the past, or the, oh my God, what's going to happen in the future? And people who are happiest or most content or calm are thinking about what's happening in the present moment. So what meditation will do is you're training your brain to, I'm following, maybe I'm saying, or maybe I'm following, like I'm listening to a guided meditation, and my mind will wander and I'll think about, oh, what am I going to eat for dinner later? Right? Your mind goes there. And so what you want to do is you want to train your attention to go, I'm thinking about something that's not now. I need to let that thought go, like in a thought bubble away, and I need to let it go in a non-judgmental way. Don't judge myself so much for having the thought. And then I bring my attention back to, the guided meditation. And then 3 seconds later, boom. Well, what am I going to eat tomorrow? Like your thoughts will go there again and you'll bring them back. But what you're doing in that is you are training your brain to recognize that you'll have thoughts that don't have to do with what's happening in the present, that you can let them go, act on them, not dig into them, not worry about them or wonder about them, but just simply let them go and notice them. I'm noticing that. And what people find is over time, it's pretty amazing what happens is that the more you practice it, the more you're able to, during non-meditation time, to, help yourself, like train your brain to, oh, wait a minute, I'm thinking about this thing over here. Let me bring my attention back. And that's why meditation mindfulness is it's the thing that people keep talking about, because it's something that's really going to help you. Right? Like there's lots of things that you can take and medications and all of that, and certainly those things help, but really, it comes down to you. And so you have to be the one to be like, I need to learn how to train my brain not to go down these rabbit holes, not to go down into these places of the fear and the wonder and the, all of those things that create so much of that anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So currently I am studying to take the SAT. And yeah, I think I'm definitely the planner type. I'm always like, this time to this time, I'll probably take an hour to do this, an hour to do this, an hour to do this. And then, what I've noticed is that like, probably the reason why I feel high school like goes so fast is because every day seems like very repetitive. Like there's not much except for like holidays or like breaks that I remember. But like since our days are like so repetitive, that's probably why we think high school moves so fast. It's because like it's just every day's the same. It's just not significant. And
So wait a minute. Can I ask you, my high school feels like it's moving fast because I feel like high school was like, oh God, when can I get out of here? I'm exhausted. I was like very ready to go. So, but it feels long to you?
I'm very ready to go. But yeah, now I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm a junior already.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I still remember me when I was a freshman, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about applying to college. I don't need to worry about like having a bunch of awards and building my resume, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people stress going to a good college now, but then I'm just like, yeah, you either get it or you don't. It's just how it goes.
Yeah. 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 And that's the other thing too is that, one thing that I'll say to clients is you've got to really figure out for yourself what success looks like and what is success to you, because there's all of these hidden things, right? Like, I'm going to Harvard, I'm going to Yale, I'm going to one of these prestigious schools, so therefore that I am successful, or therefore that will make me happy. And that's the thing. I hear this all the time from people. I mean, I went through it too. I thought I knew exactly what the answer was. I went and I got it and realized, oh, I never stopped to ask myself like how I wanted to live my life, like what was really important to me. And so that's the other part about school too, is I see all these people that apply to schools that it's like, do you want to live in that state? Do you want to go through that? Like, do you want to take on that much? Like, maybe your parents can't afford it. Like, do you want to take on that much debt? Like, is that what you want your life to be? But we get so focused on success equals this. And then once you graduate from college, it's about, right, the job, how much money you earn, and then checking these boxes, like getting married, having children, buying a home, all of these things. And people will do that. They'll go out and they'll think, oh, I need to, let me get married, let me buy a home, let me do this. And then they wake up and they go, oh, I'm married, I have kids, I own a home, and I'm not happy because I never stopped to ask myself, like, is this what I want? The world kept telling me that, home ownership equals happiness. And it's like, no. That's what real estate agents and the banks have told us over and over again, because they benefit from that. But home ownership it's just another thing that you can choose or not choose. You can, if you want to work towards it, great. If you don't, you don't. But one doesn't mean you're more successful than the other. And that's really important too.
Right. Yeah, definitely a lot of pressure from other people.
Yes.
And I think another thing that teenagers have problems with is proper communication with their parents. Everyone says, oh, teenagers are so rebellious. They always talk back, stuff like that. But I feel like a good amount of teenagers feel like they don't feel they're understood by their parents. So do you have any advice to give for these teenagers?
Yeah. Well, and it's, some of it too is figuring out, right? That's always hard to answer because I think some teenagers are probably right that their parents don't understand, don't get them. And then I think there's other times where it's like, no, your parent wants to understand. You've got to kind of like open yourself up a little bit and be willing to, right, like talk to your parents about what's going on. Because I think that, a mistake that a lot of parents make is they don't invest enough time and energy into their kids before they become teenagers. And then they become teenagers, and then suddenly the parents want the kid to tell them everything, right? And it's like, but you haven't been building up this relationship this whole time. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is that this is a hard question to answer because it's not on the teen to figure out the relationship. It's on the parent. I mean, some people might feel differently, but I'm a big believer that no matter what, the buck stops with the parent. No matter what age, I have a son who's a teenager, like no matter what age he is, I'm always the parent. I always need to be the bigger person, the better person, the more understanding person. It's not on him to do that. If he wants to, great, but it's not on him. I think that's really tricky for kids who right? If you feel like your parents haven't been investing in you, and, to want to go, I can understand them not wanting to go open up if it feels like their parent hasn't had their back or hasn't, that's the whole thing. It's like your kid's not going to trust you if you don't, show up for them and do those things. So I would say, though, that the biggest thing to understand is your parents are always going to worry about you. You've got to let that go, let them worry about you. And that a lot of what they're saying to you is rooted in fear. It's rooted in their own fears. Parents tend to have a lot of fears and expectations for their kids. And, I had to learn this one too, which is you don't, I think a lot of times parents think that parenting is about like molding your child into being the person that you want them to be. No, parenting is understanding your child and accepting them for who they are and loving who they are as a human being, and parenting the child that you have, not the child that you want. So what happens is a lot of times parents get, their expectations are all off. They think their kid should be doing this, or because they had such a bad relationship with this parent or that parent, right? A lot of times parents are kind of like they're seeing everything through their lens, through how their high school experience was, how their college experience was, right? So understanding that first is good, because you kind of want to understand your parents a little bit of like, they're going to worry. They have these fears. This is what it's rooted in. And then a lot of it is then, really sharing with them and telling them like, I hear what you're saying to me, but you keep comparing your experience. The advice that you keep giving me is that, is based on what your experience was like graduating from college in the 90s. That's not what my experience has been like. Can I share with you my experience? Parents do this all the time where they're like, well, in my day and blah, blah, and this is what I did. And it's like, listen, I graduated college in the 90s. Like, I know it looks nothing like how the world is today. So, it's again, I don't necessarily think it's on the kid to be the one to kind of maintain this relationship and do all of this work. But if you want to connect with your parents, I think part of it is, remaining calm with them, understanding what the root is of why they're saying what they're saying, and then help, like sort of gently pushing them to kind of see like, but you're not listening, you're not hearing me. You're not hearing what my experience is. And I think sometimes you can tell your parents, like, I just want to vent to you. I'm not looking for advice. I'm not looking for suggestions. I'm not looking for anything. I just need to vent. I just need to say this to you, or I just need to talk this through. And you can say that to parents, and you can say to people like, this is what I need from you right now. Again, so much of it is how your parent responds. Some parents get it and get it very quickly and are like, okay, this is what I need to do. And other parents, not so much. And I just don't think it's on a 16-year-old kid to try to, make their parents understand them per se,
Yeah.
But that one's hard. It's really, it's hard when you have parents that are just that don't get it, don't have a lot of self-awareness, don't understand what they're doing. Yeah. And that's the other one too, is I think for me, it wasn't until I became a parent myself that I really understood my parents on a whole new level. And listen, this is not my plug to go out and have children right away, but that's the thing is that, being a parent it's hard, it's complicated, and what you need to do as a parent really sort of butts up against like all the expectations and the things that you need to do as an adult and a human to survive. So for example, if your kid's having a meltdown in the morning, like, yes, the parenting thing to do is to be able to pause, stop, figure out what's going on, meet their needs, help them, dry their tears. Like, but if you're 20 minutes late for work, or your kid needs to get to school and the bell's about to ring and you have a meeting, then you can't, it's really hard to like be very understanding of your child, like melting down because they won't put their shoes on. Like as the adult, you're kind of thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. And you won't have shoes if you don't put them on now. And we go, but that's the thing, right? When you're a little kid, what do you know? And that's the part that's really hard is, that as a parent, you end up doing things that you never thought you would do, or you would make mistakes that you never thought you would make, or the things your parents would say come out of your mouth, because there's so much as an adult to do all the time. And the older you get, and, especially when your kids are young, it's just, life is really complicated. It's really, really complicated, which is why, right, people see their own parents being great grandparents, like they're great, really amazing grandparents. And it's like, yeah, they can be really amazing grandparents because they don't have all this pressure. They don't, they're in a different place in their lives. They've got, they're easy breezy, they're retired or whatever it is. And that's the part that's hard, is most people are having children around this time. And you're also like purchasing, you're doing a lot at once, right? You're getting married, you're purchasing a home, you're having children. And so suddenly everything gets much more complicated as an adult. It just is. And so that stress, it's real easy to kind of like just take it out on your kids, even though you don't mean to. And I think I think that's what a lot of people see once they're out in the world and they have to do laundry. They're like, oh crap, I got to get my laundry done and study for this test, and I want to go to this party. And they're starting to realize like, my parents doing my laundry was really nice and convenient, right? Like, people start to realize, like, oh wow, my parents did a lot for me that I didn't realize, and that there was, life is much more complicated. So even though it feels like your life right now is really difficult and complicated, it's going to get more complicated. The good thing is that as you mature, you're able to handle things better and better and better.
Yeah. Okay.
The things that'll stress you out now won't stress you out 10 years from now.
Yeah, probably.
And yeah, I turned 50 last year, and even though I was like, each year I like 30, 40, 50, I've reluctantly, gotten there. But once I turned 50, I was like, you know what, this is really nice, because yeah, I'm not middle-aged anymore. I'm like on the other side of that, but mentally you feel so good, so secure. You stop caring what people think about you. You speak up for yourself. You don't really, you just won't put up with the crap, especially being a female. You kind of like stop caring so much about what this guy is saying to you, or what he thinks or she thinks, or anybody. And so that's the piece of it, is it's a little bit like, yes, your life gets more difficult, but you can handle it. Mm-hmm. And the older you get, the more you can, things become easier and easier and easier.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think definitely now it's like studying for grade after grade, taking test after test and quiz after quiz. Mm-hmm. And that's like just what my world is right now. And mm-hmm. that's what I mainly focus on. I have one more question. Yes. And it's about like, when you have a friend or a family member who has mental health problems, mm-hmm. how can I help them?
Yeah, I mean, every case is a little different, like what's going on.
Let's say depression or anxiety.
Yeah, okay. So, and are you thinking about like someone you're really close with? Mm-hmm. Like a close friend, family member? Yeah, I mean, and this is the part that's hard, is that, much like addressing anything else, it's always hard you're never going to know how you're going to be received by that person. So yes, the thing to do would be to sit down with the person and just say, hey, use the I statements. Like, I've noticed lately that, you've been, you haven't been, hanging out with us as much, or I've noticed lately that you keep complaining about being unable to sleep or whatever. Like, just kind of, I'm noticing something, and as your friend, I'm concerned. Is there anything that you want to, is there something that you want to talk about? And I think just kind of opening the door, or just like, this is what I'm noticing. And if the person says no, I'm fine, and closes it, okay, I hear you. If you're someone who's struggled with your own mental health issues, it's always, you can always go back to that and say, well, okay, I hear you. I've struggled with depression in the past. or I've struggled with this in the past. I've found, doing X, Y, and Z to be really helpful. So if you ever want to know more about that, let me know. So what you really want to do is you kind of like want to open the door a little bit. You want to just kind of open the door and say, hey, I'm seeing you. When you're ready, I'm here. Because what happens is either people, they don't say anything at all, and then, right, like something happens, or they feel terrible, or, it comes out in the end that they should have like intervened more. So, either people don't intervene at all, or they kind of overdo it. Right. You're depressed. You need to get help. Here's a therapist. Have you called the therapist? What's going on with that? Are you going to talk to the psychiatrist? Right. Like bombarding someone. And you really want to kind of like tread lightly. And, this is what I'm noticing. And if they tell you you're wrong, you're wrong. And you just want to put it out there, almost like, if you think about like the stray cat, you kind of want to put the food out there and walk away and be like, okay, well, when I get there, I'm here. I'll keep putting food in the bowl, but I'm not going to pressure you so much. I think that, and then just being open, if this is a close friend of yours, just being open about your own struggles and what's going on. That's one of the biggest things that people feel very isolated and alone in their problems when, I will tell you, everybody struggles with this. And It's interesting because one of the things that people say to me all the time, once they hear what I do for a living, they're like, oh my God, how can you sit around and listen to people's problems all day long? Like, oh, it must be so depressing. And what I tell people is that, in many ways, it's been incredibly helpful for me in my own mental health, because what I've seen is I've had clients that were models that were gorgeous. I've had clients that had tons of money. I've had clients that, seemed to have it all in these exciting lives and big jobs that were unhappy, that were miserable. And what I've found from my work is that, money, looks, getting the things that you want, having a certain kind of life, like none of that guarantees happiness. None of that is going to make you feel good. None of that is a guarantee of anything. That everybody struggles. Everybody has their stuff, no matter what your situation is. And these really superficial things are never the things that are going to make you, truly happy. Right. And that's what I feel like my job has given me, is it's given me this opportunity to really see, like, oh, everybody feels like they're failing. Every parent feels like they're failing in some way. Every high achiever feels like, oh God, it's all going to fall apart, right? Every time. That's, people feel that. So you're not alone. So that's why it's good to kind of start to talk about these things and tell people these things, so that they feel less alone.
Right. I think because sometimes when you're trying to address a problem and then you suddenly talk about your own problems, some people are just like, oh, why are you shifting?
Yeah, and I mean, I would say I would start off with your friend. I mean, it's another tactic, but you can also sort of say something to the effect of, I've struggled with depression in the past. Would you like to hear more of my story? Or would you like to hear more about that? Like, you can ask someone's permission. Like, do you want to know more about this? You definitely don't want to go into that place of, oh, I had depression and this is what I did and this is what you should do, and, that kind of thing, for sure. Or, if someone's sharing something very personal with you, you certainly don't want to, okay, now I'm going to tell you about what's going on with me, right? But if you've got a friend and you're trying to find an avenue to get in there so that they can hear you, it is one way to do it, for sure. But, you want to, again, tread lightly. I mean, these aren't easy conversations to have. But the more you can sort of be transparent and sort of state things ahead of time, like, hey, I've never had a conversation like this, or I'm wondering if I should have this conversation with you because I feel like I might be overstepping boundaries, but you mean so much to me that I feel like I need to say something to you. Like, you can just speak it out loud, but so much of it is about your intention. Like, what's your intention? If you walk into the conversation with the intention of, I want to support my friend, I want to make sure that they understand that I'm here for them or their resources or whatever, then that intention will come out. It will.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. It was so nice meeting you.
Oh, nice meeting you too. Best of luck with everything. It's very, very exciting. So wait, so you know where you want to go to school and all that?
I have some colleges in mind, but I'm still thinking of whether I should stay in state or go out of state. Maybe if I get a scholarship, I will go out of state, but then for now, I'm just like, I kind of need to save money.
Yeah, I was gonna say, listen, that's the thing about college is that yes, going to, I mean, out here at Stanford, like, yeah, going to Stanford and going to Harvard, like these big schools, yes, they're gonna give something, you know, yeah, you'll meet certain people, and yeah, there's an advantage to it, but beyond that, like, people ask you what college you went to, like the first 6 months you're out of college, and then once you start your job, no one's ever going to care again. No one. Do you know what I mean? So I always tell people, like, please do not spend a small fortune to go to a college because you think it's really going to benefit. Like, it's going to be harder for you to deal with 6 figures of debt. You know what I mean? Like, it's better to go to the state school, like, save the money, leave college with no debt. That is going to do so much. That's going to give you so many more options than going to this like small liberal arts school that maybe might impress a few people, but no one's going to ask you about it. You know, like no one, I mean, trust me, after a year or two out of college, no one cares. No one asks you, you know, all. So, but that debt's going to follow you. And the experience, it's really about the experience. Like, what kind of experience do I want to have? Where are my people? Like, you know, are these the people that I want to spend time with? Do I want to, you know, be in this city or in this town? You know, those are more important than, you know, how prestigious the college is.
For jobs, don't they still look at like the college that you went to?
Yeah. I mean, listen, you know, I will tell you, like, yeah, if you went to Harvard, you went to Stanford, I think people would be like, I think with those kinds of school, it's much more about the networking. Like the people that you meet and that piece of it. But after that, like okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, again, like it may be, but I mean, I just think that listen, if you had unlimited resources, like go out and go to the school that you want to go to, great, you know, but I think that you're going to have a lot more options and life's going to be a lot easier. Sort of having to maybe taking a job or taking a lower ranking job or whatever it is for 6 months or a year to prove yourself versus having all of this debt that's going to take you 20 years to pay off. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's sort of like, okay, yeah, I mean, maybe, you know, there's here in California, there's like now everything's so hard to get into out here that like it doesn't even really matter. But when I was younger and I was going to college, like there was a big difference between going to the UCs, like UCLA, UC Berkeley, versus like going to the state school like Fresno State or San Jose State or whatever it is, right? There was that difference. And so, yeah, someone might look at, you know, there might be like, oh, you went to UCLA, or you went, oh, that's nice. Okay. You know, that might impress them for a minute, but they're gonna, you know, it's more about like, what work experience do you have? Like, what internships do you have? Like, what work have you done in school? You know, are you a hustler? Are you going ahead and doing things like that? All of that stuff is going to impress people a lot more than the college.
Yeah.
You know, like employers want to see, like, is this person, can this person work? Can they figure things out on their own? Are they quick? Are they right? You know, that's what they're looking for. So it might not necessarily always translate to schools.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree.
Yeah.
I need to get accepted first.
Yes. Get accepted, see what the money is, and then, you know, make some decisions. But I've known people that turned down Stanford because of the money piece. You know, I had a cousin who, I think he got into Stanford, and both his parents went to Stanford, but like for him financially, I think he ended up going to UC San Diego, which is a great school. but it's not Stanford. It's not known for that. But listen, he's a lawyer now. And he's got a family, and he's been very successful, and, he's living his life. So that's the thing is that I don't know, he met his wife at college, they have these kids. Like, there is these other pieces too of, like, sometimes, it's about thinking. It's back to what I was talking about in the beginning of thinking about, what does success mean to me? How do I want to live my life? What's important to me? And life happens day in, day out. Where you went to college, the prestige of the university is far less important than how do you feel when you walk around the campus? Because you're going to have to walk around that campus for 4 years. The prestige of that university, okay, get a sweatshirt. What else is that going to do for you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway. Well, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I hope everything. Good luck on the SATs and all that good stuff.
I heard college was kind of easier than high school because
Yeah, it depends
there's more
on.
freedom.
Yeah, it kind of depends on where you went to, like how hard your high school was in comparison. I mean, I've known people that went to really hard high schools and they'll tell you like college was easy. The thing about college that's nice is once you get done with those gen ed stuff, I still don't understand why we make people do that. And you're able to like pick a major and focus on things that are much more interesting to you. You get to take like a bunch of courses that are interesting to you. That part about it is better. But yeah, I mean, college is great because it's the one time in your life where you're getting the best of both worlds, which is you are a kid, you're being supported, you don't have to worry about going to work, you're surrounded by people that are your own age, everyone has the same schedule and a ton of free time, and it's fun. College was great. It was a lot of fun. It was hard work at times, but all of those things, you get all that freedom, but you're not under your parents' roof. So you have all this freedom, but you don't actually have to be an adult yet and kind of deal with like paying rent and doing these things. And so enjoy it, like be in these moments. But even now, I mean, right, the more you can get in touch with like, I'm never going to be in high school again. Like, this is it, like, because trust me, you'll be like me 30 years plus down the road of like, what happened in high school? What was going on? It's like, this is the one time in your life that you're going to experience this. So experience it. Be here. Be present for it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. It's very late for you, I know. So I'll let you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Bye.